Today's lesson is strength of conjugate acids and conjugate bases in the light of Bronsted-Lowry acid-base concept. In this lesson, we are going to learn Bronsted-Lowry acids and bases, strength of conjugate bases, series of acids and conjugate bases, and finally series of bases and conjugate acids. So let's begin. The first point is Bronsted-Lowry acids and bases. Let's see which compounds are Bronsted-Lowry acids and which are Bronsted-Lowry bases. Bronsted-Lowry acids are hydrochloric acid, nitric acid, water, etc. And Bronsted-Lowry bases are ammonia, hydroxide ion, etc. The hydrogen containing compounds that can donate protons are called Bronsted-Lowry acids, and the compounds that can accept protons produced from Bronsted-Lowry acids are called Bronsted-Lowry bases. Now let's see about the species after losing proton or after gaining proton. Hydrochloric acid becomes chloride ion after losing proton. This is conjugate base of this acid, and for ammonia is a kind of base. So after gaining proton, it becomes ammonium ion, which is a kind of conjugate acid. So chloride ion is conjugate base of this acid, and ammonium ion is a kind of conjugate acid of this base. Now the conjugate base which is produced from acid, whether this is stronger or weaker, and conjugate acid produced from base, whether this is stronger or weaker. This is today's lesson, so let's go to the detail. Now the point is strength of conjugate bases. We all know that conjugate bases are formed from acids. Now let's consider a strong acid from which conjugate base is formed. Strong acid is hydrochloric acid, which is a strong Bronsted-Lowry acid. Since it's a strong acid, it ionizes very easily, and then chloride ion and proton are formed. Since it's a strong acid, it ionizes very easily, and that is why the backward direction is extremely low, negligible. So it loses proton very easily and moves forward direction, but gaining proton, it cannot move backward direction very easily. So as base, that is conjugate base, is very weak when it is produced from a strong acid. So strong acid produces weak conjugate base. That means this is stable. It cannot move backward direction very easily, gaining proton. So we can say that strong acid produces weak conjugate base. Let's see another reaction, ammonia, which is a kind of Bronsted-Lowry base. So it gains proton and ammonium ion is formed. This is weak base. Now after forming ammonium ion, it wants to go backward direction losing proton. Losing proton, that means this is acid, and it is conjugate acid of base ammonia. Since it's a weak base, after forming ammonium ion, it moves backward direction very easily. That means this conjugate acid is not stable, that means unstable, and it's a very strong acid, strong conjugate acid. So strong acid produces weak conjugate base, and weak base produces strong conjugate acid. Let's see the next point. Now the point is series of acids and conjugate bases. Here there are some acids. Those are perchloric acid, sulfuric acid, hydroiodic acid, hydrobromic acid, hydrochloric acid, nitric acid, phosphoric acid, formic acid, acetic acid, carbonic acid, and water. Here this is strongest acid, then sulfuric acid, then hydroiodic acid, then hydrobromic acid, hydrochloric acid, nitric acid, phosphoric acid, formic acid, acetic acid, carbonic acid, and lastly water. This acid produces conjugate base, and this is perchlorate ion. This acid produces bisulfate ion. It produces iodide ion, then bromide ion, chloride ion, nitrate ion, dihydrogen phosphate ion, formate ion, and acetate ion. We know that stronger acid produces weaker conjugate base. So here this is a stronger acid and its conjugate base is perchlorate ion. This is stronger, it will be weaker. So it will be weaker than bisulfate ion, then iodide ion, then bromide ion, then chloride ion, then nitrate ion, then dihydrogen phosphate ion, then formate ion, then acetate ion, and from here bicarbonate ion, and after that hydroxide ion. That means hydroxide ion as conjugate base is strongest, and perchloric acid is the strongest acid that produces weakest conjugate base, and weakest acid that produces strongest conjugate base. So strongest acid produces weaker conjugate base, and weaker acid produces strongest conjugate base, and vice versa. Now today, thank you very much.